All right. Shall we roast Tim's PR?
Oh, yes.
What was he doing here?
Sounds like a good thing.
Maybe Tim is
I also
actually
noticed that he
roasting.
has one closed PR, so probably he made 2 PRs.
Oh man, hang on a minute. Let me just edit my filter here.
Wouldn't it be funny if it is a one-liner?
It probably is.
And we can.
I was merged.
This one was merged. Oh, this isn't even effect. This doesn't count. This is not effect. We can't look at this. This hurts my eyes. It's not effect.
That's slop.
It's pure slop. So this PR, I guess, is refactoring the effect runtime. So I guess effect v5 announced embedded in OpenCode.
Plus, as all team PRs, zero description whatsoever.
Yeah.
of the changes.
Yeah, here's 23 file modified.
If you want to know what I'm doing, just look at the fucking code.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is actually pretty tame for Tim, like in terms of changes. Like usually it's like 2,000 additions, -100, and there's literally just like a one-word title and no description. And it's like it's yeah. He was playing with the Legos. Okay, alrighty. The GitHub Actions was not happy with his title, clearly. Let's see here.
Effective file LSP. Oh, they are starting with the LSP. Wow, nice.
Interesting. Okay. Vouch. Whatever that means. All right, let's look at the code before we look at the comments. What's going on in here? Let me see. So let's get rid of this. So I think we'll probably want to start with looking at this runtime file. So let's. What is this? Okay, so v4, v4 spotted. That's cool. Look good to me. Merge. PRs from Tim. Looks good to me. Merge it. Ship it. Vouch is Mitchell Hashimoto's social credit system for. Okay, yes.
Oh.
Vouch is this person does not send AI slop stamp.
I'm
Sorry
not
to
sure
be annoying.
What's for Team Smart then?
Yeah, you can never be sure with Tim. You don't know if his PRs were AI generated because he's essentially the most advanced artificial intelligence that we have. Sorry to be annoying, but what's the official word on the effect v4 documentation? I don't know. We should probably ask our Lord and Savior Mike about.
Why don't you ask me for documentation? I never wrote documentation in my life.
You're the one running the effect office hours, clearly. So these questions are for you. There is no word on v4 documentation.
But the plan there is we're gonna get a release candidate once we have all AI guidelines for transition, and we have proved via evals that AI systems are good at writing v4. And then the follow-up steps is to make the v4 documentation available before we do a final stable 4.0 release. Timing wise, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no commitments on timing. None. How crazy hard would it be to integrate effect cluster with trigger.dev?
Why would you?
I think that they're not competing, but they're doing the same sort of thing. Like, we don't need documentation anymore. We got Tim Smart.
Yep.
Sorry if the question about no, homie. To be clear, I'm not calling this person homie. His username is homie. Homie is not in my colloquialisms, but homie 10100 question hasn't been asked. It's been asked in the past, but the we're not roasting you or anything like that. We just don't know when the documentation's going to be out because V4 is still under pretty heavy development. So we don't want to like pour time into documenting V4 when things are still very much up in the air.
Going back to the question about trigger.dev, I think integrating effect cluster with trigger.dev is not something that you would ever want to do. What you might want to do is integrate effect workflows with trigger.dev. Effect workflows is an effect way of defining durable workflows. The official runtime for that is effect cluster, but the API is runtime independent, so technically you could integrate that into trigger.dev. As of complexity, I'm not sure. Usually doing those types of integration is non-trivial, but AIs are becoming good at doing those types of things, so you might have an easy life. I've never done it, so I can't speak from experience, but it doesn't feel like an impossible thing to do. I remember Mattia at some point did an integration with Restate.
Yeah. We in the end we even sorry.
No, go ahead, Mattia. Sorry,
I was saying that yeah, it's not impossible. I think that when I tried to do that, it was like more a manual work because AI weren't there yet. But I think that, as Mike mentioned, probably the AI can probably end up writing something that would work for you. You can point out how the official cluster one is implemented, the interfaces, and I think that the AI can write for you an integration that hides behind the effect workflow APIs, another basically workflow engine.
There's a question in chat from Homie about if I'm good at effect, if I'm good at using effect, do you think it'd be relatively easy to get a job using it? We have a listing of jobs. So yeah, I do think it would be easy to get a job. There's quite a few companies adopting effect, and there's quite a few companies already using effect in production. We publish on our website every week, effect.website. Every week on our blog, we have a series called This Week in Effect. And part of this series every week is listing job opportunities. So we've got quite a few in here now. Wow. Quite a few in here now. And there's always more and more companies that are approaching us, letting us know that they're hiring folks. So feel free to, anybody who's looking for a job using effect in production, please look through our list. And also join the Discord and take a look at I think it's called hiring or job opportunities. What's it called? Hiring? There's a channel in Discord for
effect jobs.
Folks. Yeah, effect jobs. There's a channel in Discord where you can post about looking for work, and also companies can post about the fact that they're looking to hire effect experts. The side effect of using effect is getting a great job. Marketing. Yeah. Put it.
Not even wrong.
Mirella, put it on the new website's homepage.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the new website. It seems like more jobs are posted on This Week in Effect than on Discord. That's not true. They just get aggregated into This Week in Effect. So like the This Week in Effect jobs come from the Discord channel or from companies approaching us and letting us know that they're hiring and that they'd like to be featured in the blog. Or like if we know anybody who's looking for work. So if you're a company and you're trying to hire folks who know effect, you can also feel free to reach out to us directly. All right, let's see what's going on in here.
Let's think.
So it looks like they are using managed runtime in OpenCode for the moment. I think this makes sense because the entire app is obviously not written in effect at this point. So like we can probably, as part of this review, talk about good practices for integrating effect into an existing large code base. So I think that like using managed runtime as like an initial jumping off point to bringing effect into a very large existing code base is kind of makes sense. It's a nice way to package up services and layers and then make them reusable across the app, because I think you could start by running effect.run promise and things like that in your app wherever you want. But the problem with that is like the services that you acquire and release when you run an effect to completion with effect.run promise, like there's no way to like, you're going to end up closing those services unless you do some like jump through some hoops. So I think it's a little bit better to start with managed runtime. And then when you get to the point that like enough of your app is using effect, you can start going from the top in and like make the entry point to your app effectified and start removing the usage of managed runtime. It also looks like they're using a little bit of more advanced feature of managed runtime, which is you can actually specify the memo map that's used by a runtime in effect. So under the hood, this like memo map data structure, we've talked about it before, but this is the thing that allows us to keep track of layer memoization. So when you're building like the layer graph in your app, this data structure, a memo map, is the thing that allows effect to track whether or not a layer has been built already or not, so that we don't build the same layer twice if it's found multiple times in your layer graph. Let's see what else. We have a service runtime interface that exposes the runtime itself as a lazy thing. There's probably a reason for this. I guess there's many runtimes that could exist.
Yeah, it seems so, because they seem to be hid by the layer.
Let's see if Tim fixed this.
They return an empty function, like a function that takes no argument and just return the already constructed runtime.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This could probably be a constant. I don't think it needs to be like lazy here. But maybe there's a reason we're not aware of, but it doesn't seem like it here. Just looking at this code, it seems like you could probably just make this not lazy. Let's see. It also looks like for convenience, they export run sync and run promise directly from this interface, which is fine. Just lets you like, let's see. What is this? Service runtime.
Seems like they have kind of one runtime per service.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's the map that has a layer as a key.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is Tim's code. So we're looking at Tim's code right now.
Is it?
Oh,
yeah. I opened up Tim's like the version that Tim edited. So this is like his code.
It was before just Oh, they have also the layer is like is typed so that the service that's provided has to produce the same output as the layer. So when you call make runtime global, you have to have both the service key and the layer that produces exactly that. Okay.
Yeah, it does look like this helper is designed to give you methods to run a specific service. So global runtimes is a global map. It's keyed by the layer instance. If the runtime doesn't exist, one is created and we reuse the memo map. So this again allows you to not have to create this layer many, many times. This layer will be memoized in this shared memo map. So when you create a managed runtime, you can like do this kind of thing. You can like customize the memo map that's used. Then we set the global runtime. So I guess this helper is to almost cache the layer for a particular service and expose it as a runtime so that you can like, I'm not exactly sure what the utility of this is yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. Make runtime instance. Okay. We have this get instance runtime thing, whatever that is. got a specialized run promise here that is doing a lot of legwork to observe the fibers exit. Excuse me. Get instance runtime. Let's see what this thing does. Why have a map of runtimes in a platform like OpenCode? I don't know. That's what we're trying to find out. Guys, we're going to have a real hard time roasting Tim's code if we can't even understand it. Let's see. Instance.directory.
Yeah.
All runtimes.get directory. If the map doesn't exist, we create one. We set the map for that directory. Instance context. We'll probably need to go look at instance context up here to understand what this is. Let's go look. So this must be, I wonder if this is to accommodate the work tree feature, or the workspace feature of OpenCode, where you can have multiple workspaces running. So like this instance context thing allows you to kind of track which workspace you're in, maybe. And then these methods down here allow you to grab the runtime for a particular like layer, maybe. Tim Effect does code a lot. Indeed. Tim Effect does code a lot. Let's see. What else is going on? Actually, I want to look at the comments to see if we can glean any other useful information from this. Let's see. The problem is that we have two tiers of services. We have global services that should only ever be instantiated once per app, and then instance services, per directory services, that should be instantiated and shared once per instance until that instance is disposed, at which point they'd be shut down and reacquired until the next disposal. Managed runtime does what we need for the global services, and layer map basically does what we need for the instance services, minus the forceful interruption on invalidation, hence the RC map PR, but I was able to implement forceful interruption in a draft I have here. The problem with this approach is that requirement numero dos is not met, as it will potentially instantiate an instance service multiple times if it's dependent on by a second instance service layer. Let's see. These tests describe the desired lifecycle behavior of the runtime system. We model 3 services: global, process-wide, shared across all directories. B is instance scoped, depends on global. A is instance scoped, depends on both B and the global service. Every layer increments an acquire counter when it is built and a release counter when the runtime is disposed. That lets each test describe not just the final value, but okay, fine, we don't need to know about that. Key invariant within a single directory. Instance services that appear as dependent. So yeah, I think this has to do with either directories or workspaces or something. So this is the global service. There's these two. We have a global layer. We have the B service that depends on the global layer. We have the A service that depends on both B and the global layer. So the global service is a runtime is created. So that's what we were looking at before. And then B, we have an instance specific runtime where we get a fresh instance of B and give it the global layer. And similarly, wait, where did B layer come from? Up here. And for this instance version, we get a fresh instance of A, provide B, provide the global layer. Okay. Interesting. Let's see. Instance services are reused within a directory, but isolated across directories. I guess. Maybe it's directory specific. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure there's like a very good reason why this needs to be the case, but I'm feeling the same way I did back in
wouldn't
the
be
day.
sure of that.
Maybe not. I feel comment is I'm feeling the same way back in the day when I saw Rust code for the first time. What the? Yeah, this code is definitely a little hard for me to understand.
I mean, I think I grasped the idea. I mean, the idea is that, as you mentioned, some services need to be created per directory and cannot be reused across different directory. I am not understanding why.
I think it's a wrong design.
Yeah, unless like there are some services that, in order to be acquired, need to be scoped by directory. They need, for example, to create temporary files in directory, something like that. But I don't get why the layer map didn't work in here.
Yeah.
Again, just guessing, and didn't know, but just guessing what comes in my mind as we speak.
There's a comment in the chat. Effect makes your code easier to reason about. Yeah, in general, yes. In general, yes. What are we doing? We're supposed to be roasting this code, not like talking about trying to understand it. Like, this is garbage. This is garbage. Throw it away. Start from scratch. Start from scratch. Let's go back to the diff and see if we can't figure anything else out in here. Because like I'm not understanding why you would need directory scoped services instead of having like a service that can handle the acquisition and release lifecycle in different directories. Let's see. Where can we go? File. Is that what Tim was trying to do? Is trying to fix that? Maybe.
That is possible.
The code is roasting you. Indeed. When you try to roast the code, but the code roasts you.